I write about football, and it's this third season. There is a lot of talk about football. But the beauty of this series, however, is that even if it talks about football, it also loved by those who don't follow it and don't love it or probably hate it. What is the secret, in your opinion?
Well, I think we're lucky that much like the Wizard of Oz, I get to play the metaphorical Dorothy that brings us into this magical world of football. And I'm probably, and this goes back from when we did the commercials back in 2013. I'm usually asking those questions sincerely in the writers' room and then on set, and then when Brendan comes up with a brilliant, concise, clever answer, then we just type that up and we put it right into the show, which literally will happen on this week's episode. So hopefully there's a way in for the people, and then they walk away with a little bit more knowledge of the sport. But we give you enough just to understand what's happening in the moment, and then if you understand the game at a deeper level, like yourself, like Brendan, other people, then there's some ideas and some jokes in there for you guys as well.
If we make sure that people care about the characters, then people will care about what the characters are doing, even if what they're doing is a arguably very, very silly thing.
Listen, I've got a question for you. Ted's life is very complicated because he has so many personal and Team Richmond problems to manage in the Diamond Dog secret reunions. Ted has sentimental problems with Michelle, love his son Henry that is far away, he has panic attacks, and he has team problems. In the geographical scale of priorities of Ted, in your opinion, where is located football?
I think it vacillates between, second and third. I think ultimately it's always his family, and I think that one of the bigger issues Ted has is where Ted is situated within there, and because sometimes the theory that we talk about in the writers' room a lot is that idea of when you're on an airplane. And they tell you when the masks come down, if you're with your child or someone that acts like a child, put your mask on first so that you can then help them. And that's kind of counterintuitive, especially to someone like Ted, who would rather make sure you're safe and then do that. Meanwhile, he's asphyxiating. So yeah, I would say that football is probably, and the team at large is probably always ahead of himself, and always and every now and then ahead. Every now and then in the moments ahead of his own family, but both of those things are always ahead of himself, for better or worse.
Brendan, I've got a question for you too. Coach Bird is a very strange person. Surely better coaching than dancing, as we saw in an episode in season 2. That is surely. But Bird and Ted complete themselves because there is a big friendship and a great complicity between them. Is kind of two strange person, which usually one finish the other's dialogue. Is this the secret of this trade and the reason why they survived so long in a very complicated club as Richmond?
I think Beard's whole, in my head anyway, Beard's whole thing is to just see what does Ted need at a given time, and Ted's got the talking part down. So since Ted's handling that, Beard doesn't need to talk much. Ted does need someone to learn the rules of soccer over the course of a 12-hour flight. And so that's the kind of stuff that Beard wants to be ready for. And that really goes back to an improv doctrine from our improv days of, sometimes if you're watching a scene that your colleagues are in, do you want to enter that scene? Well, hold on. What does the scene need? And what does this need is Beard's entire raison d'etre.
Great. Okay, last question is about where you were on White House meeting the U.S. President Joe Biden. How did you say to him, and do you have some behind-scene moments that you want to share with us?
Golly, yeah. It's crazy how much people love this show. Even though we're aware of it to a certain degree, we kind of forget, like, at what level, us walking through there, just even the way the Secret Service the men and women, protecting, the leaders of our country were so childlike and giddy and enthusiastic, and we were met with that. Everybody in the cast, when we were walking through, it's like it was hilarious. I'm trying to think of any.
We'd been there for a while, going to different rooms and stuff, meeting different people, and then we were brought to one last room that was like, all right, we're going to wait here, and eventually you'll be brought in to meet the president.
The Roosevelt room, I believe.
The Roosevelt room, yes. And we're all like making sure our flies are zipped up and everything, and but we got a while, so we're kind of loose because surely someone's going to come in and say, now you're meeting the president.
Right.
But instead, we're all looking at Jason telling a story, and the president sneaks in behind him. Is this guy still talking? Oh yeah, hello sir. And it was for the president himself, who usually literally has a horn section playing when he enters a room, to go the sneaky Pete route was pretty great.
Your character is by far the one that has evolved the most, probably in the wrong way, I don't know. Because Nate is a good guy with a lot of talent, but with a lot of self-esteem problems. Your character probably is the victim of his own extreme ambition and a repression too. I want to ask you, how did you take the news that Nate would become the villain of this third season after reading the script for the first time?
I knew about it for a while. I knew even from when we were filming season 1 that this was where it was headed. So I had an idea, that broadly where it was going. I quite distinctly remember the season 3 episode 1 getting sent it and reading it, thinking, I wonder if they'll sort of take the foot off the gas a little bit. Like, will they, present him as a troubled soul rather than an outright villain? And in that first episode, I think he really comes across quite villainous and he's quite rude. And so I was like, oh wow, okay, they're really kind of pushing on this Nate's a new villain feel. But like you say, he is a troubled soul, isn't he? He has got a lot of insecurities, and yeah, he's repressed, and a lot of that probably stems from his toxic relationship with his dad, which I'm sure we'll kind of unpack later in the series. And so, yeah, it feels like he's still got a way to go. He's certainly not found happiness, isn't he? As much as he might have felt that, if he gets this top job, or if he can become the best that he is, and scrolling through social media and looking at what everyone's saying, he's not happy. We can see that he's not happy. So there is a cautionary tale, I think, with Nate's one, which is a little bit of careful what you wish for.
You talked about social media. Probably Nate's real enemy are the comments and tweets on the social media that have a great influence on him and lead him to make wrong choices sometimes. A very actual problem that involves a lot of people in the real world, unfortunately. How is your opinion about the influence of social media in these modern days?
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, you can't help, and I sometimes find myself doing it. And I remember particularly when the show came out, or the season finale of season 2 came out. And obviously that's when Nate has stabbed Ted in the back, basically. And I started looking on Twitter and it's like, oh God. And I had to kind of come off it. And partly because I felt, that's what the character does. And so I shouldn't replicate the mistakes that he is clearly making. But yeah, look, social media can be a great thing. It can be a real force for good, and it can mobilize people and make their voices heard in ways that they otherwise wouldn't. But undoubtedly, the flip side of that is it's very easy to say something very bad and for it to spread like wildfire. And some people don't need a platform for such toxic attitudes, and Twitter and the like can be the place to dig all that out. And so yeah, you can very easily end up going down a rabbit hole with all that stuff. So yeah, I think if you're on social media, and I am, but you just got to maintain a sort of a healthy relationship with it. And because there is also a danger that you play with fire, and that's absolutely what we see with Nate. He starts taking these comments to heart. He starts changing his behavior as a result of tweets from people who he doesn't even know, or shouldn't necessarily, they might be bots, who knows. They might not even be real people. And so yeah. So
last question for you is, Have you become a West Ham fan after this role and this new professional adventure of Nate?
Well, inadvertently, yes. I mean, I'm not a football fan really, and so I feel like if I'm going to have a team, I guess it has to be West Ham as a result of what has happened. And I'm going to see a match on Wednesday actually, and they've been really good because obviously they've come on board with the show, and obviously they're the villainous team, and so it's a funny position for them to find themselves in because obviously they are a real team, and yet AFC Richmond is a fictional team, so it's odd. It's sort of this weird blurring of art and life, and so yeah, and they've sent me a lot of kit and things, and hopefully do some bits with them on Wednesday when I go and see them. So yeah, it's funny that. So yeah, I guess maybe they are my team. I don't know.
I was in Rome last weekend, and I tried to get to the Udinese game, and our tickets we didn't work out, so we were in a bar outside of the Stadio Olimpico, and it was amazing. We watched. It was 3-1, 4-1 in the end. It was good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny because it doesn't feel like it's all of a sudden become this really easy relationship they have. They still have a lot of arguments. They still disagree on a lot of things, and they're still very different people. But I think that they've understood what their similarities are, and they've managed to see eye to eye more than they don't, if that makes sense. And I think that they have any good relationship, one person has to be taught and the other has to teach, and those two roles swap from person to person. And I think that they've just about managed to start doing that with each other, that they can say we can learn things from each other, and also sometimes we can tell the other person how we feel without it ending up them punching each other in the face.
But Jamie remains a prima donna, and in this season came a big player, Zava, or if you prefer, Zavan Ibrahimovic, I don't know, call it you want, to make his life on the field more difficult. There is a scene in which Jamie is about to score with a beautiful lob, but Zava on the line kicked the ball and the goal score for himself. I was so angry looking at that image. And how is the feelings between them, and what do we have to expect for the rest of the season between them?
Well, just a quick word about Max Wazinski, who came in and played Zava. He was so good. He is so good. And Zava is just this brilliant character that comes in and really punches this energy into the show. And so from my perspective, I was like, I loved having this sort of antagonist with Jamie. But I think that, Jamie, if anything, it holds a mirror up to Jamie, and we see how he reacts in this situation. We saw in season 1 when Danny Rojas came along, this new player, this amazing new player who comes in, and everyone goes, "Oh, aren't they great?" The difference in how he reacts to Danny Rojas, he feels like he has to beat him, show that he's better than him. And with this, he thinks that we need to integrate Zava into the team along with all of us. But that being said, Jamie is still who he is. He's learnt to try to be better, but he still is somebody who is proud, and he wants to be the best player in the world. And so, yeah, he learns how to try to make that progress without being ego-led. He tries to make it from a place of just being a better version of himself.
Okay, I read, and I'm a little bit agree with the comments, that there are a lot of similarities between Jamie Tart and Jack Grealish. Is your character inspired to him? Are you inspired to him?
I'm inspired by him, for sure.
Yeah, by him. Yeah,
no.
Sure.
But no. It works both ways because I have a shrine to him in my bedroom. Jack Grealish is one of the characters that I took inspiration from. There's Beckham, there's Ronaldo, there's Paulo Dybala. There's these players who play with sort of prowess and pride, and they're big. And even before Zava was there, Ibrahimovic. There's this element of Cantona. There's showman, and it was with so much love that I was inspired by Jack Grealish, because he has this sort of he's a very lovable rogue in that if he's on your side, he's your favourite player. If he's playing against your side, you're booing him. And I thought that's such a great, he's such a great character.
Did you really play in all those fantastic Premier stadiums in season 3? How did you play the game shooting on London Stadium, Old Trafford, or Stamford Bridge?
I mean, we didn't touch properly the field. It was so funny because it's like we're gonna go into the pitch, and then as soon as the step goes there, cut.
Yeah.
So
you have the groundskeeper just like watching our every move. If we put 1 foot on their holy grass, then that's it. We're out. But yeah, so it basically got CGI'd on top of a lower league football team in the UK called Hayes and Yedding FC. So we played there, and then it was all green screened. But in all of the backroom stuff that you see, as I said, the London Stadium, Stamford Bridge, everywhere like that.
All of those stadiums we actually
we have an amazing VFX department that do an outstanding job to recreate all these grounds, and make us look like we are, actually doing the job at the stadium.
Yeah.
They're great.
Well, I think it's really because it's about relationships, it's about how we all interact with each other and how the impact that we all have on each other. And I think it's just fascinating to see, all these really diverse, interesting, extraordinary characters all in this melting pot. And what's going to happen between them all, how they all kind of ricochet off of each other. I think that is the secret of it. And also just the sort of the magic of Ted in the middle of it and how he's sort of created this this kind of ripple effect that goes out into the atmosphere of them all. Yeah, I think
it's got a duality about it that you can be a football fan and you can not be a football fan. But also, if you're not a football fan, you can sort of still root for the team. You can because of all this, the drama, the backstory of all the characters and how what they're aiming for and how they're dealing with things like in the locker room, in the press room, whatever. It all has an effect on what happens on the pitch, and ultimately that is the barometer. How successful the team is the kind of barometer for the show. And so we have fessed up today. We don't know anything about football. Jeremy Swift and James Lance. At all, we don't follow. We never liked it particularly. We're both massive music nerds, but nevertheless, when you see the team winning in the show, or you or whatever, you're with them and you struggle. You're with their struggles and their successes, and so considering that I'm not into football, that's quite an achievement.
Jeremy Higgins is probably the only manager that I ever known that asks sorry when he make a mistake. That is something incredible and quite unbelievable. But probably it's only fiction. It doesn't exist in reality. That's why the audience love him, your character, so much. Because he's capable to say sorry when he made a mistake.
Cool. Well, I love that people get into that. I think it's a sign of his maturity that, if you're still at Higgins' age, sticking by something that isn't working or is wrong, fundamentally wrong, then it's going to have, particularly if he's in charge of a team, then it's going to have an effect. So you have to accept. You have to do a mea culpa, and accept when your mistakes and learn from them, and just hope that people appreciate that you're being honest about it.